Hi, everybody. We'll give it a few minutes for everybody who to join in. So we'll just wait a moment because I didn't play an intro, and then hopefully we'll be able to get this going as a podcast too. That'll be bonus.
Yeah.
Well, so far we'll get started. Um, all right. I was trying to get some stuff shared out too, so let me do that one more again. Hi, everybody who's joining in. Say hello and let us know where you're looking in from. I have Zach here tonight, and we're going to be talking about Losar Sang. So you'll have to tell us, what is Losar Sang? And if I'm saying it correctly.
So, song is what is known as one of the four generosities. In Tibetan Buddhism, there are usually the four rituals that you'll either learn in the beginning or you'll steadily learn throughout your practice. Song is the most accessible, it's the easiest, and it's especially if you're learning Lojong, which is mind training. The manual, The Great Path of Awakening, will mention this, and I believe in the appendix at the end, one of them, it goes over what a torma is, what song is, the water offering, the water torma offering. Um, but of the four generosities that you'll learn, this is the easiest. So we have song, sur, chaptor or chutor, and chut. Sang is a smoke offering. Sur is also a smoke offering, but it's a smell offering, and it's offered to different beings, the beings in the bardo, the dead, um, hungry ghosts, etc. Chator or chaptor is a water torma offering or a water and food offering, and it's in practice kind of looks like you're offering like breakfast cereal, like a bowl of breakfast cereal, uh, 7 of them to the hungry ghost. That's primarily for hungry ghost and to Zambala. The transmission I've received is half Bretta or the hungry ghost, and then half Zambala, who is the second Tanka above me, the god of wealth. And the reason for that is because Zambala deals with wealth, and the Pretas become Pretas because of greed. So it's kind of the antidote to their greed.
Mhm.
And then we have Chut. Chut is a very involved offering of the body. We imagine our bodies being offered. We have the white offering and the red offering. We imagine our bodies becoming this feast for all of the things in front of us that would get in our way. In Buddhism, it's very pacifist. There are what are called subjugation practices, but those are for very experienced lamas, and those are much higher tantras that you have to undergo 3-year retreat for. Um, but with Chud, it's we believe that instead of fighting the thing that's in your way, you feed it. There's actually a book by Lama Sultrim Elioni about this, where she creates this adjacent practice for anyone to do in the West, and it's called feeding your demons. And the idea is that it's attacking you because it wants something from you. When you give it that thing, it goes away. Um,
So contradictive to what we have learned and been taught our entire life,
yeah,
right?
and right, and that's kind of like how I take on when people come to see me for other spiritual reasons aside from like a reading or a cleansing, um, that is what I tell them. I go, instead of trying to force out the thing in your house, make friends with it because it can become a very good ally. And a lot of people, especially with our Christian Western understanding of things, it's like, well, if you feed the demon, it's just going to hang around. Yeah, you keep feeding it, and then it becomes your friend. Um, the idea in Buddhism is that we give and we give as much as we can. Obviously, not to our own detriment, because part of Buddhist teachings are to keep yourself whole as well. You know, the middle way. We do not give and give and give to our own detriment. We give in so much that we can. And by doing that, it
So we're
actually provides us an armor because of karma, because of merit. So by doing these things, it protects us. Um, and that is what all the four generosity practices are about. It's about repairing karma. It's about befriending the things around us. And it is about removing obstacles. So in song, we offer smoke. There are three rituals that deal with that: song, like I mentioned, sur, as I mentioned, and then jinsek, which is very similar to those of you who know what homa is in Hinduism. It is a fire ritual, which is, again, typically only done by lamas or 3-year retreatants, or if you're given permission for certain tantras, you would perform it. Song and sur can be done by virtually anyone. It's best if you can be taught it, but I think sur, from some of the teachers that I've heard talk about it, can be done by kind of everyone. Song, especially, according to my teachers, can also be done by virtually anyone, and is a very common practice in Tibet, especially old Tibet. The grandparents of a family would take juniper, shukpa is what it's called. It's a special type of creeping juniper.
okay.
Crumble it into bits, and every morning burn it in a fire with wishes for the family, with prayers to remove obstacles. And it's also given to the local deities of the land, the earth lords.
So it sounds like it's something you want to do kind of with your family group, or can you do it by yourself?
Um, you can do it for the family. Like I said, the tradition in Tibet is that the grandparents kind of do it for the family. As a practitioner, I kind of do it alone. Um, and there are many rules in Buddhism, and then there are just kind of hard, what I call hard suggestions, which means if you can follow this, follow it, but don't let it get in the way of you performing it. It's if you can perform it and have to make accommodations, perform it and make those accommodations. Um, One of those is that song should always be practiced in one part of where you live, and then sur should always be practiced in another part of where you live. Um,
So they're to be kept separate from each other.
yes, because you're offering to different beings. You're always offering to the four guests to begin with, but the aim
And
of each practice,
I'm gonna interrupt you and ask you, for those of us that aren't aware of who the 4 guests are, if you would explain
right?
that.
I'll go over that. So you'll always offer to the four guests in the beginning, but the direction of where you want to put the offering, both physical and what your intent is different. For instance, Chaptor isn't for your obstacles necessarily. It is slightly addressed, but again, that's more for the hungry ghosts, the yakshas, the nagas. Um, Same with chud. You wouldn't necessarily practice chud to appease local deities. That is very briefly coursed over in the chud practice, but so the four guests are honored in all four generosity practices. And in ascending to descending order, it is the enlightened beings. So all of the Buddhas, all of the Bodhisattvas, all of our gurus and lamas, all of them, all of the enlightened beings. Then we have the Dharmapala, who are the protectors. So in our lineage, that's Mahakala, specifically Mahakala Bernakchen, the black cloaked Mahakala. You see Mahakala in the Kaju lineages especially, but he is practiced in, I believe, all four iterations of Tibetan Buddhism that are commonly practiced. There's also the Shangpa and the Jonang schools, which are minor and not as widely practiced, so I can't really talk much about them. But in Nyingma, Kaju, Gelug, and Sakya, they all practice Mahakala to some extent. Below the protectors are all sentient beings of the six realms. So we live in what is known as samsara, the world of suffering, which is kind of a bad translation. The Sanskrit word is dukkha, which means attachment, clinging. So when living in this realm of desire, when we're always wanting things, even our basic needs are a want. If we were to look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, even the baseline needs that need to be met, shelter, water, food, our body is still wanting because it needs those things to survive, but it can still cause suffering. If we can't find food, water, or shelter, we suffer. Um, so we live in samsara, the realm of desire, the realm of suffering. In this space, we have six realms, six spheres, we'll call them. From lowest to highest, we have the hell beings, sometimes called demons, hungry ghosts, animals, humans, heroes or demigods, and then gods. Your best incarnation is human because they're enough in the middle that they can understand the Dharma, but they're not too pleased with their life that they know they want to get out of here.
Right.
So that is the third guest, all beings of those six realms, all beings of samsara. And the fourth guest is our obstructions, our obstacles, our karmic debts, the things we accrue lifetime through lifetime. The illnesses that overtake us, the debts that we have in general. That is our fourth guest. Song is meant to take a sacred substance, an incense kind of substance that has beautiful scents, jewels crushed into it, blessing pills and medicine crushed into it, flowers, the 8 sensory offerings, the 3 whites and 3 sweets, which are molasses, honey, and sugar. The 3 whites are dairy products, milk, butter or ghee, and yogurt or curd. Precious metals, precious woods, spices, herbs, all of these things that are desirable. We take and we put onto coals and transform it into smoke. And we bless the smoke that it becomes whatever the 4 guests want or need, and especially what our obstacles want from us. If they want blood, if they want flesh, if they want our life, we ask that instead of that, take this as ransom.
Okay.
It also appeases the local deities, which are the earth lords, the spirits of the land that have been around for eons. To some degree, it also is an offering to the Nagas, which live in waters and sometimes live in trees. Again, another one of those hard suggestions is that this is never done near running water, running natural bodies of water, because it kind of takes the la, which is kind of like your life energy,
Right.
away. It can take it away. So we don't do it near there. But if, for instance, I was in the next town over where the Sandusky River is, well, I live there. I can't do anything about that. Still do the offering.
So does it matter how close you are? I mean, if you're not literally riverside, right?
Mhm.
Or is it a matter of how the smoke burns, where it's gonna travel? If it's close enough to the water, it's gonna take it away.
Mhm. So, based on the suggestions that I've been given, you definitely don't want to be in eyesight of the water.
Okay.
Um, because our world is made up of so much water, it's rare that you're ever going to be too far from a body of water. Uh, Again, it's one of those hard suggestions where it's like, even if you see water, make the offering anyway. Um, The
And Zach, do we make it inside our dwelling or do we do this outside? What is the preferred actual space for this?
so the type of incense offering, the type of song offering, there's La Song and Sangcho, and there are many, many kinds of song. Um, the one that I have transmission for, the one that I have the permission blessings for, is called the Riwo Sangcho. Riwo means mountain. Sangcho means song offering or smoke offering. Translated, it's often the song offering on the mountainside, or the song, or the mountain song offering, or the song upon the mountain. Um, so ideally, what you want to do is find the highest point where you live and make the offering there.
Let's see.
If you live in New York and you have rooftop access, that would be the best time or the best place to make that offering. If you live near a natural park, you're going to draw some unwanted attention if there's smoke at the highest point of that national park. So you wouldn't want to do it there. Um, so there is some practicality that you have to factor into this, but the daily lasong practice that anyone can do is typically done either by sticking a stick of incense in a potted plant outside, or opening up your windowsill and just laying it on like a fireproof dish where your windowsill is and making the offering. If you have a covered porch, you can fill a flower pot full of sand and then just get some Tibetan incense, light it, rest it on the sand, and then make the offering. So long as rain isn't going to be an issue or wind isn't going to be an issue, you want to make this so the smoke can at least travel outside. So, in a sense, if you're doing it like on a windowsill, in a way, you're making the offering inside, but it's traveling outside the window. So there is some practicality that needs to be taken into account here. Again, one of those hard suggestions is get to a mountain and make it. But if you can't, make the offering anyway. Time is also another part of this. Chitor or Chaptor, the water torma offering for the pretas, is done very early in the morning, anywhere from 3 in the morning to 6 in the morning. Sang is done anywhere from 6 to before noon.
Okay.
Sur is done in the evening, and Ch is done anywhere from midnight to about 3 a.m. Same with the Mahakala practice or protector practices. Um, I won't be doing this event at the shop at 9 o'clock in the morning. I will be doing
Right.
it somewhere in the evening. Again, hard suggestion, do it early in the morning before noon. If you can't, make the offering anyway. It's about
Right.
generosity. That's why it's called one of the four generosities. It's because even if those beings aren't necessarily awake right now, in ultimate reality, time and space aren't really a thing. They'll receive it. The best time to capitalize on that rising energy is in the morning. You're
Sure.
still going to have benefit by doing this at 9 o'clock at night.
Makes sense. So not everybody, other than the daily, you said there is a daily that anybody can do, right? For example, myself, I am a total novice, right?
Yes.
Um, to Tibetan Buddhism. So, but I could do that on daily. And is there a specific date for that? Is that something we can do year round? When does that occur? We know the
So
time.
so typically, Losar, Tibetan New Year, is the time that large song is done. There's kind of three ways to do it. So you have the small song, we'll call it. That's not what it's actually called, which is the crumbling of juniper and burning it in the morning, like I referenced earlier, or the taking of
Mhm.
Tibetan incense, lighting it, sticking it outside, and making that. The like medium way of doing it is getting a charcoal disc, proper song substance, proper song incense, putting it on there and reciting an actual liturgy, which you do need transmission for. Um,
Mm.
unless you meet with a lama and you talk about this. Hey, I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about song, and how would I go about doing that? The lama might say, well, we can transmit that to you, but you do have to take refuge first, and then I can give you those teachings and then you can practice it. You also might find a Lama that's like, yeah, that's beneficial for everyone involved. Here's how you do it. Um, the larger songs where you're actually taking a fire and burning it down to coals and offering things like wine and beer and rice and barley and butter and milk in their whole forms, those are the types of songs, the type of sangcho, the type of la song that is done during Losar, usually the day of or day before the actual Tibetan New Year. Those you're probably not going to be practicing on your own. I practice the small and medium ones on my own. Um, there is not a specific day. It is actually meant to be a daily practice. All of the four generosities are meant to be daily practices, and ideally, you would do all four in retreat. Um, you would wake up, wash your face, brush your teeth, sit in front of your shrine, make your water bowl offerings. If you have lamp offerings, you would make those. Then you would go into Chitor. Then you would do whatever practice you're in retreat for. Then you would move to Song, and then you would do whatever practice you're in retreat for. And it's a routine.
Mhm.
Not all of us can afford to be in retreat, much less every day of our lives. The 3-year retreatants, that's what they do. That's how they become lamas. Um, so there is not a specific day where Song shouldn't be done. Song is a daily practice. It should be done every day. If you get to it when you get to it, that's generally okay. It is said that some of these practices, if you do them enough, the aims of your practice are going to come to expect it every day. And so you should be making them every day if you take up certain practices. With Song, it's kind of get to it when you can get to it. It's best if you can do it every day, especially if you are facing an obstacle like health problems
Mhm.
or financial problems. Um, but typically speaking, you'll see large songs for special events like Losar or World Prayer Day, which is called Zamling Chisang. Um, it's a Tibetan holiday that usually falls somewhere in the summer, June, July.
Okay.
Uh, Losar is going to fall typically somewhere in February or March. It's not a fixed day, it changes. It's a lunar schedule. And
Oh.
sometimes it will fall on Lunar New Year, which is the Chinese New Year, because there are like 3 different calendars when it comes to East Asian dates.
Mhm.
Um, Sometimes Lunar New Year is the same day as Losar, sometimes it's a month after. And it's because there are 13 moons to a year, and sometimes 13 is counted as 13, sometimes it's counted as um, 0.
I see.
Um, with Tibetans, what the Chinese would see as Lunar New Year is kind of like our 0. And that whole month is what's called Gek, which is like the firing off of unresolved negative karma. And so we try to avoid auspicious things like transmissions or empowerments on those days. And we do a lot of purification on those days. Vajrasattva practice, Tara practice, Mahakala practice, Sang,
Mhm.
Chud. We would do purification things on those days, that whole month. And then starts Losar. And that's when you do like the blessings. So you would do Amitabha practice, Chenrezig practice, um, increasing practices for those who practice Red Tara, Kurokule, they would do that. Um, but yeah.
So fascinating. All these things. And I am a total novice, so
Yeah.
when it comes to this, so you're teaching me all the things. And I like that it makes sense, right? That the calendars aren't gonna go together because, again, Chinese Lunar New Year, they count it sometimes. Now, is it the Chinese that sometimes, or are we including both the Tibetan Buddhists and the Chinese that count 12 or 13?
So most lunar calendars in general, regardless of where you're coming from, I believe even Judaic, their
Mhm.
the Jewish calendar is very, very similar because they have a lunar calendar as well. I believe it's very similar. For us, there's like I said, for Tibetans, there's about three different calendars. Um, the one most closest, I don't remember the name, but the one most closest to what we follow is very similar to the Drukpa calendar, which is another branch of the Kaju lineage. So under the Kaju, we have Taklung, Karma Kaju, Drukpa Kaju, and Drakung Kaju. The Shangpa Kaju kind of got absorbed into the other schools, but the Drukpa have a calendar that they publish, and there's like an app that you can download as well. The calendar we follow is very similar to that. It has
I
an
see.
actual name. I just can't think of that name right now. My teacher has told me before what it is. I just don't remember it. Uh, but the
That was gonna
challenge,
kinda be my next question. Where can people go in the Northeast Ohio or even Northwestern Ohio to learn?
so my center is actually in Columbus.
Okay.
My teachers, because I do have more than one, are all from there. The Columbus KTC, the Columbus Karma Teksum Choling, which is the Tibetan name for our home monastery in Woodstock, New York, the seat of His Holiness Karmapa, Ugyen Shinli Dorje. And there's a whole controversy about who the true Karmapa is, who the true 17th Karmapa is. We have Ugyen Shinli Dorje and Shinli Tai Dorje. We follow the lineage of Ugyen Shinli Dorje. And his seat in America is in Woodstock, New York. It is the Karma Triana Dharma Chakra. Karma means action. Triana, three vehicle. There are three modes of getting to enlightenment in Buddhism, the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma, which is the Hinayana, very much kept alive in the Theravada traditions of like Laos, Cambodia. They're what they're called the forest traditions. Um, Laos, Cambodia, Thailand, that is the Hinayana. The Mahayana is the greater vehicle, is what it's called. Maha means great, yana, vehicle.
Mm.
Mahayana is practiced primarily in China, Japan, Korea, and Tibet practices all three of these. But then we have the Vajrayana, the diamond vehicle or the indestructible vehicle. In the Hinayana, it's about getting one's self to enlightenment. In the Mahayana, it's about getting oneself and all beings in samsara to enlightenment. In the Vajrayana, it's about getting oneself, all sentient beings, to enlightenment as quick as possible. It's said within the strike of a lightning bolt, you can achieve enlightenment.
Hmm.
That is the goal of the Vajrayana. It's to do it all as quick as possible. These are the Triana. The Dharma Chakra just means the wheel of Dharma. Dharma is the teachings of the Buddha. Dharma's literally translated means the truth or how things are. Sometimes, and very loosely and lightly, I say this, translated as awareness, awareness to the truth, awareness to the path. But chakra means wheel.
Right.
So karma is also in Karma Triana Dharma Chakra. Karma also is kind of like the surname, which is put first in Asian naming styles.
Mhm.
Because we're part of the Karma Kaju, we follow the Karmapa. It's kind of like a surname. So even my given name from taking refuge, Karma Zopalundro, we all have karma at the beginning of our name because it
Right.
is a familial, quote unquote, name. Karma, Triana, three vehicle, Dharma Chakra, Wheel of Dharma.
Interesting. Can women practice?
Yes, women can practice, especially in our lineage. The Karmapa is doing a lot with trying to elevate women, actually. there's a whole issue. So this is where we kind of get into the specifics of Buddhism, that if you're inside of Buddhism, you get it. If you're outside, it makes no sense. And to me, as someone who's an insider, it still doesn't make a lot of sense, but I understand why they do it.
Okay.
There is a heavy emphasis in Buddhism on transmission. Transmission has to be intact. Otherwise, whatever tradition there was, it cannot any longer be revived. Once it's broken, it's broken. There was never a transmission for women to receive the Bhikshuni vows in Tibetan Buddhism fully. We got the novice vows. We didn't get the rest because of time. There wasn't a transmission from India into Tibet quick enough before like things started happening. And I mean pre-communist China taking over.
Sure.
So like the translators, Marpa and others, were able to get the Bhikkhu vows to Tibet, but there wasn't enough time with how things worked out to get the Bhikshuni vows. Because of that, because there was no transmission, there was no lineage intact, women typically can only get so far in Buddhism as nuns. Now, that being said, a lot of the people that I have learned from are women because they are lamas. Lamas are different than monks or nuns. Lamas take on retreat and they take on vows. And there is a saying, and I don't remember it exactly, so don't quote me on this, but it's something akin to a lama will take 500,000 vows. A monk will take 5,000. What this means is that a monk is in a better position to keep his vows and achieve enlightenment sooner because he's in a monastic community. A
Right.
lama lives in the world where there's more temptation and there's more ease in breaking those vows. So it's a little harder. They don't actually take that many vows. Tibetans love large
No, but
numbers
as
to
an
get a point
example,
across.
right.
Yeah. Now, if we're talking Nundro, you literally have to do the 111,111 practices 4 different times to get through Nundro. That one's not an exaggeration. That one is a hard and fast rule. The Karmapa has given transmissions to some students that do at least 10,000. If you can't do the full 111,111, do 10,000 at least. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah, that's a whole nother time.
Yes. So, yes, all of the lamas that I have taken classes from, or even my closest personal teacher, the one who I took refuge under, who I have that I talk to most commonly, female.
That's
Lama
interesting.
Sutima Leone is someone who I've taken, online classes with. Same with Lama Lina. Same with, I can't think of her name right now. She's actually the whole reason I know what Ryo Sangcho is.
Mhm.
Lama, I can't think of her name. But yeah, most of my teachers are female and they are lamas. In the Nyingma and the Kagyu especially, you have more of a tradition of lamas. So within the Nyingma, they're called Nakpas, and then there's another one, Nelyorpa, I believe. They're Nyingma. They are lamas. They are proficient in the tantras. In
Okay.
the Kagyu, we have the 3-year retreatants, which is my lama. She's the 3-year retreatant, as well as the other 2 teachers, Lama Adam Burner and Lama Tom Broadwater. They are all 3-year retreatants. They are lamas. They rightfully can wear the white zen.
Okay.
There's also the repas. Milarepa was the first repa. He is one of the founders of our lineage. And there is a living tradition, though it is very rare, and there's only one practitioner that I know of in the West who is a repa, Repa Dorje Özür. Um, his birth name is Lama Justin van Boydash. It's a very limited transmission because there's not a whole lot of interest. And if that once that dies out, it dies out. If that lineage
Wow.
is not transmitted, there is no reawakening it. And it comes down to authenticity. You want to be part of a lineage where there has been seen results, right? That is why lineage is so important. It has to carry on and be alive. Otherwise, once it's dead, the authenticity kind of dies with it.
So would you actively recruit somebody to keep a lineage, or do you wait for somebody to come to say, I would like to learn?
You wait for someone to come. So His Eminence Goshir Gyaltsen Rinpoche, he is the kind of like Tantra master in our lineage. He is the one that
Mhm.
holds the Repa tradition. So you can go to him and request the teachings to become a Repa. And if he sees fit, he'll teach you those. You don't kind of go out evangelizing. That is something in Buddhism you
That's
won't
good.
see. You won't see Buddhists typically um, save a
Knocking
few.
on doors.
Right. Save a few sects in Buddhism that are even like fringe for the rest of us
Mhm.
and bordering like cult. You typically aren't going to be evangelized. Like, have you heard the good news about Gautama Buddha? No, you're not going to have that. Um,
Good. Let me ask you this then. Is there a time? So we're talking about basically the Tibetan Buddhism New Year, right? Is there a time where students are taken in, or can they come in anytime?
um,
And is student the
Both.
right word?
You can say student of the Dharma. You can say disciple. Usually, disciples kind of saved for once you have a. So you have three kinds of teachers. You have a heart teacher, a root guru, and your refuge teacher. A refuge lama or teacher is teacher, lama, guru are kind of used interchangeably. Um, the one you take refuge with, that's your refuge guru. They're gonna give you the refuge vow, maybe the bodhisattva vow as well if you ask. Um, and they're gonna teach you shrine maintenance, meditation, basic meditation practice, uh, conduct and ethics, and lojong. Um, might give you transmissions for very rudimentary sutras or practices like song. Um, then you have heart teachers. These are the teachers that you develop a very close relationship with and you learn a lot from, a lot of valuable insights. Your root guru is the one who first points out the true meaning of awareness and the true meaning of nature, of the mind. They're the ones you go to when receiving teachings like Dzogchen in the Nyingma tradition or Mahamudra in the Kagyu tradition or um, Madhyamika in the Gelug tradition. They're the ones that are going to point out the true nature of your mind for you. And so you can have that experience. You can enter Buddhism pretty much whenever. Find a Sangha, attend it, see what they're like, see if you like the teacher. And when you feel like this is a path for you, ask them to receive the refuge vow. Now, that being said, it is always best to do things on auspicious days, new moons, full moons, the 8th day of the Tibetan month, which is Medicine Buddha Day. Same with Tara days, Dakini days, protector days sometimes. Um, the 4 holidays that we celebrate in Tibetan Buddhism, Losar. The only time that you wouldn't want to receive refuge is the month of Gek, like I mentioned, where there's just a lot
Right,
of
when you're
negativity coming out of everywhere and things getting resolved. So Gek is kind of that month where everything's avoided that requires auspiciousness, and it's just a lot of purification going on. Um, but Losar, uh, the 4 holidays, like I mentioned, but really anytime that you feel I have a connection to this path, you just ask your Lama, like, I would like to receive the refuge vow. And they'll set up a time. They'll usually kind of like for my Lama, if someone approaches her and is like, I want to receive refuge, she'll ask, would you mind if other people took refuge on the same day? Most of us don't care. Um, And she'll be like, okay, I will send out an email, see if there's any other interest, and then we'll find a place and I'll give you the vow. So it's really whenever.
Nice. Nice. So much good information. So much. Especially again, I am a novice.
Hmm.
Melissa is much more familiar. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here, so you get to teach me
Yes.
and everybody else. So I appreciate that. You
Yes.
help us understand it a little better. What else can you tell us about Losar Song? Anything else? I
Um,
feel like we've covered a lot, right? Maybe all over the place, but hey, it's because I was curious.
yeah. Um, so like I said, Losar, we try to do a lot of auspicious things. Um, we clean our shrines thoroughly, deep clean. For me, that would mean taking a chip brush, those really wide paint brushes,
Mhm.
and dusting my tankas, dusting my namkas, which are like the star shaped. For those of you who are on live and not listening to the podcast, the star shaped objects behind me that look like God's eyes or thread crosses, dusting those off, passing those through smoke actually, to purify them. Cleaning, I have copper bowls. Some people have gold or silver or brass bowls for their offerings. I have copper. Um, Cleaning those, polishing those, uh, buying new incense to offer for the shrine, reciting sutras, doing your practices. If you can take at least a day of retreat, doing intense practice. Um, but song, like I said, is for purification of obstacles and making the beings that we can't see around us, and even the beings we can see. It's interesting how sometimes when song is done, a place for like a short while sees, like for Melissa's shop, let's say, I wouldn't be surprised if after doing song there's like a sharp uptick in sales or more people find out about the shop. um for those who attend, maybe you're quarreling with someone, and after you attend the song and join in, that issue becomes resolved and it becomes no longer a problem. um
Because of the karma, or as I would consider it, energy? Is that why? Because we're raising it, we're offering it?
it's partially through it's partially because of karma. Um, it's also partially because I was just talking to my friend about this not too long ago, but I meant it in a more physical way, but it makes sense here as a metaphor, right, too, I guess. There are people helping you that you don't even know about.
That's
There
true. I believe that
are
100%.
there are beings around us, once you make friends with them, that are helping you that you will never know who they are or that they helped you. Um, Once you befriend the invisible beings around you, and make nice with them, they're willing to help you. There's a lot of reciprocity here. That's karma, um, that occurs, and sometimes they have the ability to grant insight. They can't possess your body and immediately make you enlightened. But for instance,
Right.
the Nagas are very temperamental, and they will either give you disease or give you treasures. It depends on how you treat them. So let's go back to the quarreling. If you're a husband and you attend the song offering and you're fighting with your wife, the Nagas know what we're going through. They're very intuitive. They're very psychic. They know things. Once you make nice with them, maybe they'll give insight to you and your wife, because they're not bound by space. They can travel in an instant to
Sure.
wherever. Um, they can grant insight, and you both come to an understanding, and so things are good again.
Nice.
Um,
Or
maybe it is, or yeah, if you piss them off, they can cause problems too. So just don't do that. Um, and it's very hard, especially in America and especially in capitalist countries. It's very difficult to keep good relations with the beings around you. For instance, I live like 20 minutes away from Lake Erie. I know that the Naga specifically in Lake Erie is not happy. And I've talked to my teacher about that. Like, how can I help? And she goes, well, you do song and you do chop tour, so those help. But if you want to do other things, and we got into that. It is the smallest of the Great Lakes, but it is still a sizable body of water, compared
Right.
to us humans. And so it kind of presides over this area. And if you befriend it, it will help you. But again, it's a very polluted place. And so I, as one
Well,
single person, can't fix the pollution in Lake Erie.
right.
So
Neither
until
can
that gets
I,
fixed, right. So
right?
until that gets fixed, that Naga's going to be pissed. But if
On
I
my
make offer,
path. But right, we make offerings, we do what we can to appease or to heal or to help.
yeah,
What's interesting, and it wasn't until I saw Lake Michigan for the first time that I realized how kinda unappealing Lake Erie looks.
yeah,
But then I also realized, well, duh, it's the shallowest of all the Great Lakes, and therefore, with the wind, our bottom gets churned a lot easier than a Lake Michigan, a Lake Superior, Lake Huron. So
yes,
we're definitely visually at a disadvantage. Now, I know quite a few communities along the lakeshore, at least for Ohio, have really worked to try to keep what we can see out of the water. Um, my husband is a big outdoorsman, so he gets a lot of different periodicals that include water quality, and it is making some positive changes. Could it be better? Always, right?
yeah,
So I just have to stand up for Lake Erie just a little bit, just a little. I feel like it gets a bad rap a lot.
yeah. Um, but for those of you who will attend the song offering for Losar, if you want to bring
When is it?
things, it is on the 22nd, which is kind of like the Losar is celebrated for about 3 days. The 22nd is kind of like Losar proper. Um,
Okay.
or maybe it's the 21st. I don't remember. It falls in those 3 days. I believe the 22nd is like Losar proper. Um, for those of you who will attend, it's already listed in the event page what to bring, what not to bring. Um, my suggestion is to bring juniper if you can get a hold of juniper. Um, ideally from your own land, and ideally if you give the tree something that you're taking it from as well. Uh, easiest offering, most people have sweets in their house. Get a vanilla wafer, get an Oreo, get a cookie of some kind. Give that to the tree. Tell them you're giving them this offering in exchange for you taking some pieces of juniper. Take the juniper, put it in a baggie, make sure there's no fur or animal droppings or insects or anything on it, and bring that with you to offer to the coals. Juniper is best. As for everything else, it's listed in the event page. Just make sure it's nothing black, nothing that contains onion or radish or garlic. Um, those are called the tamasic foods or the black foods. Nothing black, nothing coffee. You can bring tea if you want, dried whole black tea.
My heart, no coffee. I'm sorry. Go on.
No coffee. Burnt things, anything that is burnt or ashy or like even barbecue, no. Big no no. Charred things, big no no. In most healing traditions, coffee is a big no no. um, caffeine is just a big no no. It can cause stomach problems, it can cause anxiety. So, like, most healing traditions will say no. Funnily enough, most people in those healing traditions are drinking coffee. um, but
That
yeah,
would be
we
me.
try. Yeah. In curanderismo, it's coffee is like very much don't drink it, and most curanderas in curanderos when they
Yes.
wake up or drinking coffee.
Don't
So,
drink it, and this is my secret cup of coffee.
yes. But black tea is permissible. But again, the best thing that you could offer would be juniper. And if you have a mala, bring your mala with you. We will be reciting. This will involve visualization for those of you who have aphantasia, who can't visualize. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Um, it's best if you can bring your clean self to the offering. So if you work beforehand, take a shower and then show up, put on clean clothes, light colored, white, ideally. Because, and I'm going to preface this for the sake of the show as well as for in the future, especially at the event, for purposes of karma and for purposes of not breaking, not necessarily vows, because I haven't taken this vow, but transgressing, for the purposes of not transgressing traditions. It's a big transgression in Buddhism to profess accomplishments that you don't actually have, and that can even extend to how you dress. So if I were in retreat, it's okay for me to wear all white and my white zen. I'm not a lama. There are things I can't talk about. There are things I shouldn't talk about because I don't have the information, the knowledge, or the education. Anything that I have told you here is easily findable online and open to the public. It's open public information, or I've discussed with my lama and she's given me the okay to talk about it, or in this case, to even perform the ritual of song publicly, with the stipulation that those participating must also chant the one section of the practice, which is really easy. It's 3 syllables. It's not a big deal. The idea is because if I present myself as a lama, I'm transgressing having made an accomplishment I don't actually have. You're lying. It falls under the do not lie vow. So when normally, if I were at home, I would wear my white zen. I would wear white clothing. I would use my bumpa, which is this little vase. Those of you who are listening to the podcast can't see it, obviously, but I would normally
No,
use
it's
this.
very beautiful, very ornate.
But instead, I will be using this little stick of kusha grass. And that's to purify the offering. After they're in the coals, you sprinkle them with water. I would have, I would look like a monk, but instead of red, I'd be wearing white. I would have a bumpa, which is usually used by a lama. I would be using the tools of a lama, but because it's just me practicing and the spirits around me know that I'm not a lama, it's okay to be used. In
I
public,
see.
to present yourself as if you know more than you do is a big no-no. To
I
look
was gonna
like a
say,
llama if you are not is a big no-no. So I won't be wearing all white and my zen. I won't be using my bumpa. I'll be wearing normal clothes. I will be using kusha grass. I won't be using blessed water. It will be plain white, plain clear white, quote unquote, water. And then my mala, which isn't, everyone uses a mala, practitioners and lamas included. But for those attending, wear light colored clothing, wear white. The more homogenous we look, the better. My lama has also told me that.
that makes
Practice as a
sense.
group. Practice as a group. That way the spirits aren't confused and they realize that, oh, no one here is a lama. They're all practicing together. Not a single one of them is, doing everything by themselves. I think that's all the advice I have for those attending.
It sounds good. I'll have to check and see if I'm available. I might attend. I'm curious. You've piqued my curiosity for sure from this novice. Anyway, so I appreciate all the time and the information you've been able to share. Was there anything else you can think of, Zach?
No.
Obviously, be respectful, right? If
Yes.
you've
Yes.
never been, um, and you're just trying to feel it out, see what it's about, go in open-minded, go in respectfully. Um, you may find that this is not your path, and that's okay, but you wouldn't know it unless you experienced it. And experience it again respectfully.
Yes. Yeah, conduct yourself with decorum. That would be the only other piece of advice, yes.
For
Um,
sure.
Also, at the very end, there will be a blessing done, the Tashi prayer, which involves the throwing of blessed rice. So if you wear a bun or have a ponytail, you might get rice stuck in your hair. So I'd recommend you don't. That's probably all.
You might you'll be picking rice out of your hair later.
Yeah. And that can get annoying.
All I can tell you is I can see Melissa going, "I can keep finding rice."
Yes, that's usually what it is.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate your time, and we will talk to you soon. I can't wait to see you on the 22nd.
Yes. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.